Thank you, Mr Deputy President. Before I commence my 5-minute adjournment speech on Australia-China relations, I'd like to make a declaration of interest. Ever since I was a young man, I always had a great fascination with China, a great nation with great history and a great people. Sometimes I joke that my grandmother on my father's side was of Chinese ancestry. My amazement with China has never ceased. In fact, it grows by the day. I've always held the Chinese people in great regard. I have great admiration for their work and family ethics. The reality is I feel a great bond with China, Japan and the Asian people in general. It is because of the dedication of these great people that China, in less than 7 decades, has become one of the key engines of the global economy. Of course, this is because of the strength of their leaders, right through from Mao Zedong, Li Shaoqi, Zhou Enlai, Hu Guofeng, Deng Xiaoping, Hu Yaobang, Jiang Zemin, Hu Jintao and Xi Jinping. Hate them or love them, they have turned China from an agrarian, poor, weak, underdeveloped farming economy, the sick man of Asia, to the China that now nudges the skyscrapers. China is developing great relationships with many countries around the world, providing aid and investments that have kept global economies growing. Projects such as the One Belt, One Road, the Asia Infrastructure Investment Bank, and the work China does with the BRIC nations is to name a few of the policy record. China has been the conveyor belt that has helped grow our economy, and I expect more into the future. Thanks to the cooperation of University of New South Wales, I may soon have an MOU signed with ECNU, that's the East China Normal University in Shanghai. In fact, tomorrow morning with Professor Cheng, a second meeting will take place to move this project forward. Chinese Australians ought to be proud, as I am, of their commitment and their dedications. I've had the great honour of visiting China numerous occasions, starting in 1997 when I, as a councillor on then Rockdale Council, established a sister city relationship with Tanggu, Tianjin, China. I've never looked back. Because of all this, I see our future with China and the Asia-Pacific nations. People must accept that we are in the Asia-Pacific region and we should see our country as a member of this community of nations. Sadly, some still refuse to let go of the past and of our dependence on the US for our security and to the UK for our culture. Under Conservative governments, our foreign policy has without fail followed the US all the way, no matter what. Under Turnbull, as it is under Abbott, and before that Howard, our strategic partnership with the USA has continued along the path of reliance over independence. No independence in foreign policy and blind adherence to US-driven interests. Consequently, we continue to miss out on the benefits of our relationship with China. This is not to say that Australia should consider cutting ties with the US and the UK. On the contrary, but Australia must see its future in the Asia-Pacific region. Australia has no deeper national interest than to ensure that the great success story of our century, the economic transformation of Asia in the Asian century, continues. We must do away with the deep-seated Sinophobia that appears to underlie and drive our foreign policy. One does not need to look far to see evidence of this xenophobic outlook. Articles suggesting young Chinese nationals studying at Australia's universities are operatives of the Chinese Communist Party are now commonplace, as is the continued scrutiny and paranoid suspicion that some darker purpose lies beneath the recent increases in Chinese investment in Australian industry. One really has to wonder what kind of strains this revived yellow peril places on Australia's-China's relations, but also on the 1.2 million Chinese Australians and the thousands of Chinese students and investors. As former Prime Minister Paul Keating and former Minister Bob Carr say, it really is abundantly clear that we should see ourselves as an Asian nation. We should reach out to the Chinese rather than put up walls. And we should do whatever we can to avoid getting into military alliances that serve no other purpose but create tensions with our biggest trading partner.